Buddy, I'm Adam Biggers. Welcome to another live stream here on my YouTube channel, the Great Lakes Divide podcast. Ryan Schuling and I will be teaming up. We're getting iTunes set up and everything, so that'll be up and going hopefully by later today or Monday morning tomorrow. And so you'll be able to get audio only and with both of us. But for right now, going back to kind of what we did a lot in the previous seasons the live stream, just open questions. I have some really great topics already set up by viewers. Aaron Wise says, "Hey Adam, hey Aaron, how's it going?" So we'll tackle that. Couple of 2020 offers. I was able to actually talk to one of the recruits who was just recently offered by Michigan. So we'll get into that. And I really do want to get into these questions though because you guys, Dre Charles, Shane Majewski, I'm gonna get that right. You guys came through with some good ones. So I'm going to tweet the live link right now and we'll get to the questions. Hope everybody had a good weekend. One step closer to camp. Okay, and I think we're all set here. And if anybody knows how on YouTube to flip it, if you guys remember, it didn't used to be like this. It's mirrored. I don't know how to get it. I've watched videos. There's a way to do it on YouTube or Facebook Live, but not YouTube Live, I guess. So Leo has hey Leo, long time man. He says Biggs is back. Joshua Smallwood says, hey, I remember you from Bleacher Report. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, it's been a while. 2000, the 14-15 season was my last, or wait, yeah, 14-15 was my last season with Bleacher Report. I was there for 3 years, and that's when I started covering Michigan football in 2012. So Shane says, happy to be here, gentlemen. Shane Majewski. And let's get to these questions, guys. I don't know if Dre Charles is in here. Maybe I'll wait for him because he had a really good one. Uh, but I want to get to these, so I'm going to go through. And Shane, I think we're going to actually, Old School Blue, I want to start with his, and it's on Twitter at Mareed, Mareed 60. And Old School Blue wants to know, it says, questions for the stream. Wondering which of the true freshmen you think might make some noise this season, and how do you see the recruiting class rounding out? Hearing some positive news on Daxton Miller and Zach Harrison. What do you think? I think Daxton Miller, or are you talking about Dax Hill? I've been in communication with Dax ever since Michigan expressed interest. We had talked a lot, and then I haven't talked to him as much lately. The last I knew, and I'll pull up his recruiting profile. Last I talked to him, I believe it was like a couple months ago. He likes Michigan. I know that. 2019 kid. Certainly room for him. 3, 4 more spots. But there's a couple. So as far as Zach Harrison, I can't tell you definitively, but I could tell you that Dax Hill, I think that's who you're talking about, Daxton Hill, has a high level of interest in Michigan, at least the last time that we had talked. And again, guys, recruiting changes. I mean, he's an Oklahoma kid. Alabama's after him. Oklahoma State's after him. Sooners. So, I mean, he's got the in-state battle. And then, of course, Alabama and Michigan is in there as well. So, thanks for the question, Old School Blue. In the live feed says, Joshua Smallwood wants to know who will start for you this season at quarterback. And Joshua, I'm in the minority, man. I know everybody thinks Shea Patterson. I mean, I can see all the tweets now. Shea Patterson didn't transfer to Michigan to hold a clipboard. He's got to be the guy. He's SEC proven. I mean, and yes, Shea Patterson is a very talented quarterback. I find it hard to believe that the battle's already decided now. Uh, I do expect a competition. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Shea Patterson. I'm not saying that there's no chance that it's going to be Shea Patterson. What I'm saying is that it's a little bit early to just go ahead and say, okay, hey, it's Shea Patterson off the bat. Brandon Peters. I mean, if you remember, a lot of people were screaming for Brandon, and I'd use that, screaming, kind of not as a joke, but I guess it could be applied that way. He's got to be more vocal. He's got to be more of a leader. Talent there, athleticism, everything's there with Brandon Peters, but I'll always remember last year, 2017 Big Ten Media Days, when we asked Jim Harbaugh, and I was probably, I don't know, 10 feet away from him, and someone asked him about Brandon Peters, and Jim said that Brandon had to be more vocal, and he just starts screaming out, "Blue 80, Blue 80," and I mean, he had his game face on. It was like he was, uh, it was like he was at the line himself. He was giving a demonstration. That's what he wants from Brandon. So Rock City says, "What's up, Biggs? Hey, Rock City, thanks for coming back." Leo has thoughts on Conor McGregor comment from Chase Winovich. I was there for that, Leoism. If you guys watched the video, it's on my YouTube channel. Chase Winovich, always a great interview. I was joking with someone made a comment, I think it was on my Instagram, about Chase in a shampoo commercial. I had actually mentioned that to Chase earlier in the day. I saw him before they were, set to go hit their podiums and everything. So I was able to talk to Chase a little bit. Went back in where they had a big room where, if you guys were watching on BTN, it's just a big room, several, I don't know, probably like 20, 10 on each side, a bunch of podiums set up. And Chase comes in and he says, uh, is this a karaoke section? Just kind of cutting it up, laughing with us. As far as the Conor McGregor comment goes, I mean, that's cool. I mean, in this day and age, I mean, Conor McGregor is a superstar, whether you like MMA or not. He's a superstar personality. The guy's just rich out of his mind. And the fact that he took time to talk to Chase Winovich, I thought that was pretty cool. If you're Chase Winovich, you got to get a big kick out of that. Mutual respect. And it's basically, I mean, it's a motivational factor, I think. I mean, if a Conor McGregor says that he respects your hustle and respects your grind, that kind of makes you feel a little bit better, right? And Chase Winovich certainly known for his hustle and his grind. So hopefully I answered that for you. Rock City says, "No way, Shay, don't start. Will have Coach H Head. The best quarterback is going to win." And I'll tell you what, Jim Harbaugh had a lot of good things to say about Dylan McCaffrey. In terms of quarterbacks, I think Dylan, and I've been saying this since last year, Dylan was ahead of Brandon in camp actually at one point last year. Dylan throws a great ball. I think all they wanted to do with him was just put on some size. He's a lanky kid. Other than that, I don't think there's a problem when you look at, okay, Shea Patterson, okay, yeah, he's the favorite. But I mean, Brandon Peters is a good quarterback if he can find his vocal leadership. Dylan McCaffrey, Jim was saying that the 2 minute drives, he said Dylan McCaffrey just leads touchdown during the 2 minute drives. There's a full hour of audio. So check out GreatLakesDivide.com. That's the desktop version right now. Mobile, GreatLakesDivide.squarespace.com. We're working to get that integrated. But check that out. There's a full hour, well, not full hour, it's like 55 minutes, pretty close to an hour of Jim Harbaugh talking about everything. And that comment is in there when he's talking about Dylan. I asked him about Josh Uche. Josh Uche is another guy to watch out for. Parth Patel, hey Parth, how's it going? He said, biggest concern is the O-line and safety play, in my opinion. I would have to agree with you there. Parth, Aaron Wise says, who will replace Mccray? There are options, right? And I think we talked about this last time, but I mean, Devin Gill played behind Mike Mccray last year. I me're going to be Josh Ross. I wonder, Drew Singleton, Jordan Anthony. I mean, there are a lot of linebackers. If you're maybe safety play, that if that's a concern, but I mean, linebacker play, corner play, D line play, I mean, you're pretty set, right? And I mean, you got a great multi-positional type of guy, linebacker, safety, rover combination in the Viper with Cleek Hudson, and I mean, a Viper with Don Brown is just a next level defensive utility weapon, whatever you want to call it. It's like the Viper positions. We got to rename this thing. I mean, it's got to have a fancy acronym or something. And the way that Cleek Hudson played last year, I think that he really took ownership of that position. So Leoism says, I hope Shea leaves this year, Dylan starts next year. Leoism, any confirmation on who the offensive coordinators we could get into? I mean, the offensive staff. I imagine at the end of the day, Jim Harbaugh will have the final say on play calling. That's always been the case since he's been at Michigan, and I'm sure in his previous. Well, I can't say I'm sure. I don't know about every previous stop, but at Michigan, the final word, according to him, because I remember asking the same question to Jed Fish. I remember asking the same question to Tim Drevno. The final play or the final say is on Jim Harbaugh. And if you guys want to real quick, we can go through the coaching staff because I asked them the question. I don't know if you guys caught it about the turnover, for lack of a better term, in the Michigan offensive coaching staff, and we've seen a lot. As far as the offensive coordinator is concerned, if you guys would go on MGO Blue, there is not an offensive coordinator designated, but I mean offensive line coach with Ed Warner, tight ends coach with Sharon Moore, assistant head coach, passing game coordinator, and quarterbacks coach Pep Hamilton, and then of course wide receivers coach Jim McElwain. So more on that. Leoism says also, somebody says Higdon may not start the season as running back with Chris Evans taking the spot. That's not too far of a stretch. I mean, I think that's just logical. Chris had a pretty good year last year. Karan, I remember asking Harbaugh about having Karan on the Doak Walker watch list, and he even mentioned. I mean, he went and mentioned in the depth in the Big Ten. He went and mentioned Chris Evans, kind of just off on a tangent. If you guys watched it, that was his main interview live during Big Ten Media Days. So I remember asking him that question, and he was very complimentary of Chris Evans. And Chris Evans, I mean, that's not, I wouldn't say that that's, so like, hey man, I got a really great inside scoop for you. I think anybody who watches Michigan football, trained eye or untrained eye or otherwise, wouldn't be surprised at that. Michigan's going to have a hell of a tandem with Higdon and Evans. I really like both of them. I've always liked Chris Evans. And I remember last year, earlier in the year when I was writing, and I think at that tail end of his freshman year, that Chris Evans has star qualities. I remember a few people were laughing at me for it. So I don't want to take this moment to say ha ha, but I will. Trying to be funny here. I don't know if it's working. So Aaron Wise says, I don't believe they will run a full pro system. They will implement more spread for Shea. Adam J. Perlacki says, or Perlacki, let me know if I butcher your guys' name. He says, Peters is falling down the depth chart. Could be a possible transfer after this year. And again, guys, there were rumors saying that he had already asked for a release. I can tell you 100% that is false. 100% false. I've confirmed that with several sources, one of which also being the University of Michigan. So it's pretty, I don't know what else to tell you. Aaron Wise says, so-and-so is a tool. I wouldn't listen to a word that Bum says. I'll agree, Aaron. Forrest Clerico says, for real about our offensive line, quit abusing Don Brown and hard telling how far we go. Come again, Forrest. Big Bubba Blue says, Higdon just a workhorse during games. His motor through guys is better than anyone in a while. Mr. Johnson says, just call me Dre, checking in. All right, Dre. Hey, man, I saved your question. I was hoping that you'd be in. I saved your question. But if we could go over, I think you want to know what was most important through the first three games. And it's Notre Dame. Let me pull up the schedule. Western and SMU, right? Those are the first three. Yep. At Notre Dame, September 1st, September 8th at home and that's a 7:30 game at Notre Dame. Noon at home versus Western. 3:30 at home versus SMU. I mean, road game, Notre Dame, that's going to be just, I guess, what I envision it to be, just hard hitting, no love lost kind of. That's got to be a game where defense and ground game, in my mind, has to take over. So is it most important through the first three games? Yeah, just because a sign of a good football team is if you can get the run game going. That's kind of a catalyst for the offense. You can run the ball. Okay, now there's possibility to do other things. Get the basics down. Let's run the ball well. And I think, that's very important for any team, especially a team like Michigan, especially with a team like Michigan with this offensive, so many questions around this offensive line. I mean, they got to get it together. And I wrote a column about this. It's on GreatLakesDivide.com. I said, this is the year the Michigan's offense has to be elite. This is the year it all has to come together. And I had, semantics on the word elite. And by elite, I don't mean best offense in the country, but by elite, and I guess compared to what we've seen in previous years, it's always been right on the edge. Coaching wise, I mean, you have some good talent at quarterback. This year there's talent, with Shea Patterson, if he wins the job like a lot of people feel he's going to. There's a ton of pressure. And when I say elite, I mean, look at the preseason uh, award watch lists that are attached to this offense. Two tight ends on the Mackey. And don't forget about Nick Eubanks. He's a really good tight end too. But Gentry and McCune are going to be huge weapons this season. Huge weapons this season. And I think, and again, I haven't seen Shea Patterson in Michigan's offense, but I like the way that Brandon Peters goes to his tight ends. I think Brandon Peters to Sean McCune could be a great hookup. I think, or a great connection. Let's use a different word. I think Brandon Peters to Zach Gentry could be a great connection. To Eubanks. I mean, Spate and Eubanks, it looked like earlier in the year, if you guys remember against Florida, that looked like that might be something. So I would say I'm kind of going off here. Run game definitely, but that with the offensive line, you got to get some confidence. So to establish run game early, that's the most important. And basically what I'm saying is that it opens for everything else. So I'm going through. Oh, these guys are the questions are flowing in. So and Dre, we'll get to your question. Oh, I promise. A lot of people in the chat. I'm glad that you got Eric313 says Adam's back. Hey Eric, thanks for joining. Yeah, I'm back. Eric, GreatLakesDivide.com. Still on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Follow Great Lakes Divide on Twitter and Facebook at GL Divide. We're working on getting iTunes up. We're working on redesigning the site. I've done a little bit of work to it right now, trying to get our desktop and our mobile version integrated. And also, I'll ask again if anybody knows how to flip this view. It didn't used to do that. Now there's not an option. So, anyhow, thanks for joining, Eric. Appreciate it. Adam J. Prolaki says thoughts on true freshman Miles Sims, 6'3" cornerback, start cracking the starting lineup this year. I would be surprised. And to go on with a question I was asked, I think I've heard some good things about Jalen Mayfield. I don't know if we're going to see a true freshman start, especially not on the defensive side. I would be shocked. Shane Majewski says we need to realize it's Peter's third year at Michigan. It's not a lock that Shea picks up the offense. Rudock took half the year to pick up the offense. He came from a pro-style offense. Shea isn't. That's a good point, Shane. Robert Protzman. Hey, Robert, how's it going? Michigan's D has struggled with running quarterbacks. Do you think they'll gain? Hold on. Gotta learn how to read this morning, Robert. Sorry. He says Michigan's D has had struggle with running QB. Do you think that they'll game plan that for Notre Dame for Wimbush? Well, yeah, absolutely. If you're not game planning for Brandon Wimbush, I mean, and that's a guy. The Notre Dame game was brought up, and everybody's talking. Want to get through camp first before they start talking Notre Dame. And Chase Winovich had mentioned a checklist: winter conditioning, spring ball, get to camp. Then you start focusing on Notre Dame. But of course, they're thinking about Notre Dame a little bit. This is a huge game and renewal of the rivalry. And yes, Wimbush is a guy that's on their mind. Absolutely. If he, if he is a starting quarterback, which he should be, Wimbush is on the mind of Chase Winovich. I can tell you that because he mentioned him by name. Leoism says Ian Book is better athlete than Wimbush running wise. Wimbush has all the tools to struggle sometimes. I was pretty impressed by him at when he played Michigan State last year. At Michigan State, I was pretty impressed by Wimbush. Shane says, obviously Don Brown's scheme was great, but am I the only one who thinks they should mix in more zone just to keep teams off balance? Would love to see more zone against running quarterbacks. Feel free to chime in, guys. It's not just me. You guys, ask what that was always the fun of this, I thought, was a live stream that everybody's discussion. It wasn't like me talking at you. It was us talking together, basically. So if you guys have questions for each other, that's fine. Eric313 says, got to stay healthy through camp. I've been hearing running back Turner will see the field. Let me get to Dre's question while I was thinking about it. And that was the one through the first three games. What has a stronger impact on the outcome of the season? Coming out with strong rushing attack or setting the QB up for strong touchdown rate? And Dre, I think it's running game. I thought you had another one too. Let me get to that. And again, guys, I want to mention a couple 2020 offers. I'll get into that. And I communicated with Miles Moreo. I hope I'm saying that right. It's Miles, Miles Murao, Morao. He's from California, huge USC target, and he told me that he was shocked to get a Michigan offer. So I tweeted a couple quotes from him. Check that out on my Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Old School Blue, I think. Okay, maybe I did. Did I already answer these? I think I answered all the ones. There were three. There were three or four, and I think we've gotten to them. Salim Siddiqui, hey Salim says, my question is, do you expect more than 8 wins for Michigan this year? I don't. I see 8-5 season coming. I see 8 or 9 wins based on the schedule, based on the fact that they don't have definitive. And there's people that are going to be upset with me when I say they don't have a definitive proven quarterback, and to me that makes it hard to project, a lot of wins. But with that defense, I can definitely see 8-9 wins, not a problem. If Shea Patterson is as good as everybody expects he's going to be, if Brandon Peters ends up coming into his own, if quarterback is a strength, I mean, there's a lot of if factors, right? And especially with the offensive line, I mean, who knows? This might be a team right now that, okay, it's fair to forecast 8-9 wins, but if this offensive line gets going, we can talk about the O line if you want. I think I have a good idea of who it's going to be. Uh, 10 wins, 11 wins. I mean, to me, a good Harbaugh team is going to be capable of winning 10 games. I think that's the baseline. I mean, that's what he's done. That's what he's done in his first 2 seasons. 10-win regular season in 15, 10-win after the bowl win. Last year, 8-5. I don't know if I don't want to get into the talk about, because people are like, well, is it Harbaugh's losing his touch and it's Michigan? It was an 8-5 season. Okay, he started out with 2 10-win seasons. I think that a good Harbaugh team, that's going to be the norm. One that we know more about. This team, I don't feel like we know a lot about, and especially with the quarterback situation, we do know. I mean, my guess for offensive line is probably Caesar at center. I'm not yet figured out who's going to be. Probably Jawan Bushell-Beatty left tackle, maybe. James Hudson is a guy that's been mentioned too. He's converted defensive lineman. He's a guy who was mentioned by name, as doing really well. I think that we're going to see, I mean, Mike Onwenu. I think that we're going to see John Runyon Jr. I mean, I think we're going to see Ben Bredesen. And like I said last time, maybe I get like a whiteboard as we're going through camp. We'll kind of make our own depth chart, follow that along. Mike Martin says, doesn't get a lot of press, but feel like Oliver Martin could be a big help in the pass game. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, Oliver, even last year. Nate Shanley, or is it Shanley? I forgot. Last year I went through great lengths to find this out. Shanley or Shanley? Somebody help me out. I think Nate is going to contribute. And I mean, you have DPJ and Tariq Black, so many weapons and again, 2 receivers that everybody's talking about as well. So, I mean, that's why I'm going back to my comment about why I thought that this has to be the year for Michigan's offense to be elite. I mean, it has to. There's too much sparkle. There's too much attention. Look at all these guys. Look at all this talent. And then you bring in Jim McElwain, great offensive mind. You have an offensive coaching staff. I mean, these guys, you have head coaches, a former longtime head coach. I mean, you have other guys. I mean, these are all going to be sought after coaches. And that's my question too. Is Michigan's offense going to continue, offensive coaching staff going to continue to be kind of like a stepping stone for guys? We don't see that really so much with the defense. Very low turnover. A couple defensive back coach changes in the linebacker coach. But I mean, you get defensive line coach with Greg Madison and Don Brown as a defensive coordinator. I don't really think it matters. I mean, Zordich is great in the secondary. But I mean, other than those three, I don't think it matters who else you plug in, assistant, whatever. That's the core. And I think Michigan's got to find that with the offense. And I really liked Jed Fish. Really liked Jed Fish. Falega, yeah. Andrew Stuber, Leoism mentioned. It's possible offensive line. I mean, Steven Spinellis. I mean, there's a group of probably, which isn't a bad thing. Unproven, yeah, but it's not a bad thing. at least you don't know, like, okay, well, hey, Michigan has only 5 good offensive linemen, and these are going to be the 5 that we're going to see the most of. This is a case where there's 9, 10, and with the defensive line, of course, that's always the case, but that's because, I mean, Michigan has, 2, 3 deep that would be starting D lines at other schools. Michigan's defensive line is just that good and has been for ever since I've covered Michigan football, really, since 2012. I'd say really about 2014, I think, is when we really started to see the D line. 15, 16, of course. Last year, of course. We've been talking about guys, like uh, Willie Henry, Maurice Hurst, just pumping guys out. Mario Ojemudia. I mean, so many really good players across that defensive line. Matt Godin, sung and unsung guys. Guys who, I mean, guys who we didn't think were going to end up being superstars, and guys who have been, came in with that superstar hype. Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary's been very good. I know people talk about his sack numbers, but there's a lot more to that. It's about how much attention he draws. It's about how he impacts the game. Chase Winovich. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And tell me, 3, 4 years ago, you saw Chase Winovich being viewed as one of the best defensive ends in the country. I mean, he wasn't even a defensive end at that point. You tell me, going from what, tight end, the linebacker, tight end, fullback maybe for a second, I know tight end. You tell me that you saw this. Chase Winovich. This is proof of the defensive line coaching and the development. And I'll make a quick point, guys. I see a bunch of comments. I'm not ignoring you. I'll make a point about this. Brandon Peters, if it's so easy for Michigan to let go of Brandon Peters and move on to Shea Patterson, and I'm saying in theory, I'm not saying that this is Michigan's attitude, but what would that say about Michigan's ability? What would that say about Jim Harbaugh? He's supposed to be a quarterback guru. He's supposed to, Andrew Luck. Everybody talks about Andrew Luck. He was an NFL quarterback. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play at Michigan. And if Brandon Peters just gets brushed off to the side like nothing, what does that say about Michigan's ability to develop a quarterback? His own true quarterback. Wilton Speight was recruited by Brady Hoke, but last year, or 2016, I said, let's go ahead and just call Speight a Harbaugh guy. De facto. That was as close. I mean, Rudock was a transfer. Donald Corn was a transfer. Wilton Speight, for all intent and purposes, was kind of the first Harbaugh quarterback, if you want to even consider. But Brandon Peters was really the first. So what does that say? That's kind of my thought process. And I'm trying to think in the mind of a coach here. If I'm Jim Harbaugh, am I going to just be that quickly to move on from Brandon Peters? When Michigan recruited him, they saw something in him. If they can't get it out of him, that's one thing. Just my thought on that. Sugar Shane says 17 says, how is James Hudson progressing, and how much tick will he see? James Hudson is a guy that I think would probably, when we're talking about 2 deep, I don't know about starting offensive lineman. If we're talking about 2 deep, I think James Hudson is a guy in there. Did I say James Taylor earlier? I meant James Hudson. I'm sorry. And someone wants to know who's going to replace Mo Hurst. I mean, that's probably Michael Dwumfor, is my guess. I think, and I've been really high on Michael Dwumfor for 2 years, and Carlo Kemp as well. I like Carlo a lot, but as far as another, and this isn't anything. I'm trying to super secret or anything. I mean, Jim Harbaugh said this. I asked him last year about Chase and Mo and Quiddy and Michael, or Quiddy and Luigi, and Michael and Quiddy. This was about Michael and Quiddy. Quiddy could be like another Chase. Michael could be like another Mo Hurst. That's one of the final articles that I wrote for FanRag. If you Google it, just Mo Hurst, Michael Dwumfor, Quiddy Pay. Google those names, my name, FanRag, you'll find it. As a matter of fact, let me do it for you. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, this was I think my final one that I wrote for FanRag. It's in there. J Mays 2 says, hey, Biggs, great to see you again. Hey, J Mays 2, thanks for coming. Eric 313 says, and this, he's going left to right, and I agree with him. JBB, Bredesen, Caesar, Mike, John Runyon. Those are the starting five. I agree with that. At least for right now. I'm comfortable going into camp thinking that. Michael Allen says, hey, Adam, good to have you back, my man. Hey, Michael, thanks for stopping in. Mike Martin says, O-line won't be elite, but you'd think that Ed Warner would be able to make them serviceable. I mean, they were serviceable, I think, under Tim Drevno, if you look at from where they came from, because I remember it was 2 years ago when Kyle Kalis, at the fifth-year senior, was telling me that Tim Drevno was teaching them things that they had never learned. So I guess maybe that just gives a glimpse at how far behind Michigan's offensive line really was. Because, I mean, 2012, 13, 14, O-line, that was the talk. And how bad it was. The run game has improved, though, every year since Harbaugh's been there. I mean, and it's easy to pick on the O-line. I don't think the O-line is beyond broken. I like what's there. I just think that, I mean, now it's got to shape up. I mean, it does. There's no other way to say it. And without Mason Cole too, that's really kind of where I'm starting to think like Mason Cole was an absolute leader. I mean, Mason's one of the greatest offensive linemen to play at Michigan. I think you'd probably, when it's all said and done, you an all Big Ten team or whatever, past decade, whatever you want to put him in. Mason Cole deserves to be talked about, as among the best left tackles in the Big Ten over the past 5, 10, 15 years. I think you have to put him in there. He started every day since day one at Michigan. And it was oftentimes, Eric Magnuson played a ton of snaps. Eric Magnuson had pretty good days. Mason was oftentimes like the only guy who was really consistent on the offensive line. And I think that you have to factor that in. And I don't think that people underappreciate Mason Cole by any stretch. But I think sometimes it's easy to overlook, with offensive linemen because they don't have all the flashy stuff, how valuable that he really was to that group. That's my concern. Shane Majewski says, Adam, do you like Michigan's recruiting strategy? Seems like they switched to an MSU Clemson style, meaning they get kids that are underrated but have high ceilings. Seems very intriguing. I've been saying this all along. I mean, yes, the recruiting rankings, they do mean a little bit of something, but that's not the end-all, be-all. And yeah, you mentioned Michigan State. I mean, how many two-star guys? I mean, Le'Veon Bell was a two-star guy. I mean, I could go on a huge list. Kirk Cousins was a three-star. Connor Cook was a three-star guy. Brian Lewerke, I think at one time he was a 4, but he's a 3-star. Now a superstar. I mean, and with the receiver, the running back development, defensive line, linebackers. I mean, Darquez Denard, that no-fly zone was like a two-star tandem. Isaiah Lewis and Darquez Denard. They were nobodies when it came to the world of recruiting. And I mean, Josh Metellus. At one time, Josh Metellus, safety at Michigan right now, he was a 2-star. I think Mo Hurst wasn't. Mo Hurst was a 3-star when he came. I mean, there's examples across the board everywhere. But as far as overall style, I mean, I like it, and I think that's the high recruit ratings and everything that gets a fan base excited, right? You guys see, 5-star, 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 5-star. But I really challenge a lot of you. Don't look at the ranking. Look at 2 players who play the same position side by side, and tell me where the big difference is between a 3-star guy and a 5-star guy. A lot of this stuff is what camps they go to, who they're seen by. That's what a lot of it. And the term hidden gem often applies to a lot of these guys because maybe they don't have the means to go out to all these camps. You know what I mean? So therefore they're not getting recognized by rivals or 247 or anybody else doing recruiting. And I'm not saying that that's the fault of the recruiting services. They can't cover every kid. They hold camps in order to see as many guys as possible. But I think people have to understand that it's a two-way thing. So yeah, not falling in love and going gaga over the star ratings. I think that that's a pretty good strategy. Big Bubble Blue says our D-line is so underrated from a lot of analysis around the country. Most don't even have our D-line in the top 10. How? I don't know. I don't know. If there's something that you can bank on with Michigan football, it's that defensive line is going to be elite status. I mean, look up the stats every year. Look at since 14 particularly. And then 15, 16, 17. I mean, I'd have to go back and look up stuff that I wrote. I don't remember everything, but I mean, Michigan was allowing like what, less than 2 yards per carry, I think, in 15 and 16. I mean, we saw the defensive shutout that was 95% D line. If there's anything that can be taken to the bank when it comes to Michigan football, it is that defensive line is going to be elite. No question in my mind. So I'd be interested to say otherwise. But who said that, Big Bubble Blue? You have me curious now. Mr. Johnson says, and that's the DL development moving Gary inside to get edge rushers in. That was a question too. Yeah, that's a possibility. And again, we can get more into the defensive line in another one. We're going on 36 minutes. I want to cap it here in a few. Robert Protzman says Harbaugh did try to recruit Shea, just didn't get him. Mike Zabrowski says, hey, Adam, he's late, just sorry. Let me rewind here. Hey, Adam, just saw you were live. Sorry I'm late. No problem, Mike. I'm going to stand for a few more minutes if you have a question. 5-6 says Drevno maybe was teaching things they never knew, but the theme from the interviews this year was he was trying to teach them too much. And that sometimes can be a problem too, because you're trying to play catch up and you recognize, okay, these guys are so far behind. Maybe it was a problem of how much do I give them at a time to digest it. And again, that's just my thoughts. I mean, Jim Harbaugh brought Tim Drevno there for a reason. And that's what, when he gets there, everybody's excited. He leaves, oh, well, he was. I don't like that. If you liked him before he got there, unless he just completely came in and just ruined a position group or, was bad for the program, there's nothing to suggest that Tim Drevno did that. I just think it was time for him to leave. Big Bubba Blue says Harbaugh was always a recruiter for lower star guys. Just look at the past. He just has a big brand name to use now. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have to recruit the big 5 stars, the top players in the country, right? Because it helps. Not that Michigan needs help with brand recognition, but I mean that goes hand in hand. If you're Michigan and you're not going after the top recruits in the country, and just because if a lot of these guys they're 5 stars for a reason, right? But I'm just saying, I mean, there's not a ton of difference between a 3-star guy who maybe doesn't get seen a lot and he's not at low visibility, he's not at a major high school program. I think a lot of this is what high school you go to. Again, the camps. Everybody has this perception. Because I look at the density of like Florida, California, Texas, and if you tell me a kid where high school football is just a whole nother animal, Georgia, areas like that, and you tell me, okay, and I'm not knocking my own home state kids, but if you tell me a 4 or 5-star recruit from Michigan and the high school football is nowhere near that level, and then go put him against a 4 or 5-star recruit out of one of those states, I just think there's a large discrepancy. So why are these guys rated the same? You know what I mean? And again, we could talk about that later, but I don't 100%. I mean, those guys who do the recruiting, they work their tails off, and it's, again, you can't get every single guy, and people are like, how did you miss him? Well, I mean, how did everybody else miss him? There's only so many people doing this, and there are so many players involved. Again, the moral of the story is don't fall in love with recruit rankings. They mean something, but then again, they don't always mean. Malik McDowell is a 5-star recruit at Michigan State, the highest rated Mark Antonio ever got. He was an absolute cancer to the locker room. Didn't even practice with the team. Showed up when he wanted to. So, I mean, he's a 5-star recruit, but there you go. There are a lot of other things to factor in. So, sorry, I'm going on my little rants like you guys know I do. Any other questions, guys, before I get going? Sugar Shane says, also a lot of 5-stars have already peaked and don't get much by. I mean, Derek Green, Shane Morris, guys. Drake Harris. He was a 4 or a 5. I mean, it happens. It happens everywhere. Sugar Shane says, "Will we see Chase drop a coverage or line up as an outside linebacker?" I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean, I don't know. That's probably a question reserved for the offensive coaching staff. But I mean, they're going to be creative, or defensive coaching staff rather. They're going to be creative. And Chase is a guy. I mean, he was already a linebacker at one point. Chase has the athleticism. He's put on a lot of size. Big Bubble Blue says Chase could probably end up being a Clay Matthews type, so probably will drop back. And again, I mean, there's the athleticism factor there with Chase and the familiarity of playing linebacker before. 5-6 says, "Have you been keeping tabs on your boy Irving Bay? He's from Flint, right? He is Flint Southwestern, and last year only Army All-American in football from the city of Flint. If you can believe it, I had a triple, double, quadruple check. I couldn't believe it either. And yeah, the only All-American Army All-American uh, in football from the city of Flint, which our city has a very rich history. As far as Irving Bay last year, Jim Harbaugh told me himself that Dorian was fighting for a position in the two deep in the defensive line. So that he's another guy to certainly watch out for. Mike Martin says, "Glad they've." Hold on, I lost your comment here. There it is. "Glad they've come back to recruiting Ohio Midwest kids under that understand rivalries." That's huge too. I mean, Ohio, Pennsylvania, those are just massive, massive quarries of talent. And I think too, I mean, go get the Florida kids and the Florida, that's kind of got some pizzazz when it comes to recruiting. Um, New Jersey's been pretty good, but I like Georgia. I like Georgia a lot. And Michigan State's been tapping into Georgia. Darquez from Denard was from Georgia. You know, there you tap into Georgia, you get some pretty good players. Because and again, back to the recruiting thing. Show me, a 3-star kid from Georgia, and then come put him up against a 5-star kid from Michigan, and do you can you even tell a difference? That's what I'm saying. Like, these rankings are very much subjective. Anyway, 5-6 says McDowell was just released by the Seahawks. Just absolute horrible behavior by Malik and wasting a football career. Just totally wasting a football career. Big Bubba Blue says Shane Morris had potential. Hope just screwed his career up. I don't know if Shane Morris, and I'm not putting words in Shane's mouth. Hell of a baseball player, as you guys have heard me mention before. But yeah, I think that whole concussion thing that just that killed Shane Morris's career. And you guys remember that Brady Hoke. That was just, and then here's a word I don't really use too often. It was an abomination. And for us in the press box to be able to look down and see Shane Morris staggering, like, he obviously does not need to be on a football field at this moment. He's not even coherent. And the coaching to telling him to stay, yeah. Did Brady Hoke ruin Shane Morris's career? That's pretty, strong claim. I'll say that he didn't contribute to what Shane Morris could have been. We'll leave it at that. I'm trying to be nice here. Sugar Shane says Coach Moore is quietly killing Ohio. Sharon Moore. Yeah, and Sharon, and if you want to talk about underrated, I mean, when Sharon was at Central Michigan, I mean, you have to imagine the perceived level of talent that he was having to go against, and he was successful there. I think Sharon's a great identifier of talent. Mike Zabrowski says, "I know I noted on the last live feed that we didn't have a touchdown to a wide receiver after the Cincinnati game. It's just a very daunting stat." I agree. I agree. But at the same time, and I guess I'm trying to like comfort you a little bit, Mike. With Brandon Peters, here's a stat that stands out to me. I think what he hit like 11 receivers, 9 different receivers in the bowl game. He 168 attempts on the year. I'd have to look at only 2 interceptions. My thing with Shea Patterson was there were a lot of picks. 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He had 2 games where 3 or more picks. And again, yeah, maybe am I cherry picking stats? Not necessarily, but I'm just pointing out things. There are I like Shea Patterson as an athlete, as a quarterback, but like I said, I'm just not ready to just completely erase Brandon Peters as an option. Mark Reed says, Adam, good deal, man. Hey, Mark, how's it going? 5'6" says, with Shea and his baseball deal, what do you think about the preseason looking like an old Henson Brady situation between Shea and Peters? Robert Protzman says, Shea threw a lot of picks, but threw the ball a ton. An Ole Miss running game was garbage. True. And again, you have to say, what kind of interceptions were these? Were these okay? I have to make something happen because nobody else is going to. I didn't watch every game. I've seen his highlights. I watched a couple games. Watched Florida game on replay. Kevin Grulich says, "What's up, Adam? Glad you're back to talk Michigan football." Hey, Kevin, thanks for stopping in. Yeah, guys, we're on 45 minutes, right? Time flies with these. We're on 45 minutes. I'm going to shut it down. One final question or comment. Mike Martin says, love all the changes to the coaching staff. Cautiously optimistic about the year. Adam, look forward to talking throughout the season. Appreciate you stopping by, Mike. Thank you. Sugar Shane, Mike Zabrowski, Big Bubba Blue, my guy Dre, with Kevin. Dre always with the questions. And guys, as always, when the season starts up, we'll do these a lot more. If you have questions you want to talk about, you want me to, I'll try my best to answer. At Adam Biggers81 on Twitter. Don't forget to like our Facebook and Twitter pages, Great Lakes Divide, at GL Divide. And for right now, mobile version is greatlakesdivide.squarespace.com. Desktop is just greatlakesdivide.com. And again, we're working on getting that integrated as soon as possible, getting the iTunes up. And to follow my partner, co-host, teammate, Ryan Schuling. You guys may remember him from 92.1, the Schuling Report in Lansing. He was real big on the Nassar reporting as far as giving victims a platform to share their stories, and did a wonderful job covering Michigan State basketball and football. So Ryan, I'm glad to have Ryan with me on this. I'll cover the Michigan end, he'll cover the Michigan State end. In terms of football, we'll probably mix and match a little bit during basketball season, but it's going to be the same stuff that you guys have gotten from me over the years, just a little bit different look, and hopefully improved. I'm hoping, to do a little bit more with these live streams, hoping to do a little bit more with video and, the social media aspect of it, graphic design, and kind of give it the complete package without making it just a package where it's all glitz and glam and, okay, well, cool video, cool graphics. Where's the in-depth discussion? Where's the writing? The writing's going to continue to be the foundation because that's really all I can do. I don't know how to do graphic design or video design. YouTube Live is about as tech as I'm going, guys. So I appreciate everybody stopping by. Any final comment? Hope everybody has a good Sunday. And again, I'll update on Twitter. I did not the 2020 offers. I did not get to those. So hold on. Other than, like I mentioned, with Miles Moreno, 6'3", 270, class of 2020. 4-star offensive lineman, number 41 player in the country, number 2 offensive guard rank, number 7, and he's the 7th best prospect in California. So if he's the 7th best in California and number 41 overall, again, that goes back to what I was saying about, the Georgia versus Michigan thing. Just think about that. Anyway, he's got interest from Arizona State, Auburn, Colorado, LSU, Michigan, Oregon State, USC, Notre Dame, Stanford. He was shocked. He told me he was shocked to get an offer from Michigan. And the other 2020 offer, Jordan Johnson, 6'2", 180 pounds, class of 2020, obviously 4-star, number 8 wide receiver in the country, number 48 overall, and these are per 247's rankings, number 1 in Missouri. And heavy Notre Dame lean, they seem to think, but Michigan with that offer, and he's got attention. It looks like Arkansas and Notre Dame, he's warm on them according to 247. So I'm not a recruiting guru. I do follow certain recruits and storylines and things like that. Again, like guys like Sam Webb and 247, the guys at the Wolverine, Chris Ballas. It's great to see Chris and John Borton and Andrew Valancourt, those guys busting their butts at the Wolverine. Those guys are, Josh Newkirk with Sam, Michigan Insider. Those guys are really in tune with the recruiting stuff. So I do have connections here and there, but I am by no means a recruiting expert. But getting back into it, like you guys know, I had a little bit of a break, and I got into recruiting a little bit, enough, to where I'm comfortable. But I can't tell you who, what, this kid's gonna go on this visit right now, and that sort of thing. I'm not into it like that. So, but I do follow it enough. Kevin Grealish, you think we can land Dax? And yeah, Dax Hill, that's a guy, like I said, there's certain guys who I've talked to. I've talked to Dax ever since Michigan began to show interest. And I've reached out to him again. I'll let you know when I get an update from him. Last I knew that he did like Michigan, but again, Oklahoma State, they're in there. Alabama's in there. There's gonna be some competition. So, but yes, when I remember speaking to Dax, I spoke to him over the phone. I want to say it was last fall, and he told me that he liked Michigan a lot. And then, things change, recruiting changes, but I think that Michigan has a good chance with Dax Hill. Mark Reed says Adam needs a headset so we could take him seriously. Like, I'm not reading that name. You guys want? I do have a headset somewhere. I don't like the way I look with a headset. I do want to say Wesley Weber though, and I'm gonna hook this up. Wesley Weber, if you're watching, he sent me this last year, guys. This is just really nice. It's a Blue Yeti. Very very fancy. So I'm gonna work to incorporate this, and with the audio, Ryan's a radio guy, Ryan Schuling. So Ryan's gonna really do a lot in terms of sound quality and things like that. But right now, the live stream, it is what it is. I'm gonna see if there's a way to use this though, because I like the way it looks too. It's got that classic look to it. So thanks Wesley Weber for sending me that last year. No headset, please. Mike Zabrowski says, thanks, Adam. I love the live shows. Definitely my favorite person to listen to cover Michigan. A very true and unbiased view. You really bring the best perspective. I appreciate it, guys. And again, any topics that you want covered, any questions, I'll keep you updated when camp starts. Glad to be back. Thanks for, it looks like a lot of you guys who followed me and read me over the years. I'm glad to see everyone back. I do appreciate that. So Mike Palco says, yes, hey, Mike, how you doing? All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go play with my dogs and eat some food and probably do some laundry. So it's going to be a regular Sunday. Again, follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Follow Ryan Schuling at Ryan Schuling, and that's SCHUILING. Follow Great Lakes Divide on Facebook. That's at GL Divide. Same on Twitter. At Great Lakes Divide on Instagram. We'll get that going too. And I'll post the links once we get the iTunes up and roaring for you. So looking forward to this. It's going to be a fun project. And I believe that Ryan and I are really going to provide a lot of stuff, a lot of coverage.